This story out of New York City is tragic, and we warn you, the video is hard to watch. 17-year-old Greg Bassett from Brooklyn was set to graduate from high school this year, and his father says he was going to enlist in the Army. But on Wednesday of last week, tragedy struck, and now cops are hoping a dropped water bottle can help find Greg's killer. The team was just leaving this deli when a man in a black coat and face mask followed him out. He was captured on surveillance video, and he starts to cross the street, but then turns around and doubles back towards the deli. You can see him put a water bottle he had just purchased in his pocket and then reach into his waistband for a gun. He fires 2 shots and then runs off, dropping the water bottle and leaving it behind. Witnesses say Greg was hit in the front upper body and was bleeding from the mouth. He lived only a block away, so close that his father heard what happened and rushed over, while cops were still performing CPR on him. But sadly, he was pronounced dead at the hospital. It's believed the shooting was gang-related, although Greg himself is not believed to have been in a gang, and cops say he was unarmed. As of Friday, cops still haven't found the guy who did this.
My condolences goes out to that young man's family. They said that, you know what I'm saying, you can't even go around a corner to the store. Now, if they said this was gang related and his son wasn't affiliated in any gang, that means this retard thought he was somebody he had beef with, or as they call it nowadays, his op. And he took matter in his own hand and decided that he had to shoot him. Now that water bottle, hey, it got your fingerprints, all that shit all over it. So you know what I'm saying? If he living this type of life, it's guaranteed that he have some kind of background to the police, so they gonna be able to identify who he is. Now, if he living that life and he was just trying to show who he was, and he ain't, you know what I'm saying, got no problems or anything like that in the past, and it's gonna be kind of hard for them to see and identify unless they do some real top dog investigation.
I wish Lori was alive today, and I don't wish that because I'm in jail. I wish that because she shouldn't be dead.
It's hard to get more away than Craig, Alaska. And that was where the Watermans lived, made up of Lori, a special ed teacher and volunteer, Carl, Doc, a real estate agent, and their daughter, Rochelle. The house was happy for the most part, to the parents at least, although they disapproved of Rochelle's boyfriend, Jason Arendt, and Jason Arendt's best friend, Brian Radel, whom Rachel had also dated. Saturday, 13th of November 2004, Lori was by her lonesome. The 48-year-old spent the day volunteering, as she loved to do. After that, she went home to a quiet, empty house, went to sleep. The very next morning, Lori, always attentive at church, well, that Sunday, she wasn't there. And when Doc and Rochelle both returned that Sunday afternoon, she wasn't there either. What was especially off was, well, things around the house. The bed, for example, hadn't been made. Pieces of a rubber glove were found in the bedroom, and there was an empty wine bottle in the kitchen. Weird that it was empty, as Lori, she rarely partook in the drink. The search was on, you're checking the woods and the waters surrounding Craig. Rochelle, she went back to school, the next day, that Monday morning, and she was acting kind of weird though, and she kind of started a rumor about her own mother that she had been drunk driving and crashed somewhere. It was that same Monday that other rumors began to spread that meshed with what Rochelle was saying. A burning vehicle was found in the forest, along a remote stretch of road north of town, 40 miles away. Hunters found a van on fire. The van. Inside were bones. They also found a trail of gasoline around the van. It was now a murder investigation. Police, they executed a search warrant on the Watermans' home.
How's your relationship?
It's pretty good. I mean, yeah, we're normal teenage mother-daughter stuff. She doesn't like my black fingernail polish and that kind of thing, but we have a good relationship.
And so they quickly looked at who had been a source of strife in the house. Rochelle's boyfriend, the Ginger Prince, Jason Arendt. He was quickly brought in for questioning and quickly told the police every little thing. That his friend Brian Radel had killed Lori. A Brian who had recently shaved his whole head. Soon after Jason wore a wire and him and Brian went out for a nice little drive, well, Brian basically said how he did it while the police were listening and how Jason helped. Both boys were brought in and confessed right away. The reason they had done this, they said, was to protect Rochelle.
They told us everything. They've given you up, Rochelle.
They offered me and said no. I fucking love her.
So
Rochelle said Lori beat her with a baseball bat. She threw her down the stairs. She threatened to stab her to death. Rochelle happily told all this to Jason and Brian and showed them the bruises. A number of weeks before the murder, Brian, deciding to be a white knight, decided to ambush Lori with a shotgun. Jason ended up telling Rochelle what Brian was going to do. And Rochelle asked Jason, tell Brian, don't do it, don't kill my mother. Now Jason didn't tell Brian that, so the ambush was prepared. However, Brian forgot the bolt for the weapon for the rifle, so nothing happened. A few weeks later, she told them both that she'd been beaten again, and this time Jason and Brian decided to give it another go. They waited until Doc and Rochelle were out of town, and then they did what they did.
I just want you to understand something. There's a big difference between being the person who actually commits the crime, the actual killing, and the people participating in the planning of it.
Though it was interesting that before her mother was found, she said she had probably been involved in a drunk driving accident. Exactly what the lads planned to make it look like. Rochelle denied it all. She said she had no idea what they were going to do. Yes, her mother, was abusive towards her, but she never knew of any plot to kill her. And she wouldn't have wanted it. In the house, the Watermans, when the police executed that search warrant, they found a letter on Rochelle's bedside locker. It was from Lori to Rochelle. In it, she apologized for the tensions between the two of them and told Rochelle how much she is loved. Probably that's what it was. There was tension in the house for sure, but nothing more. To a teenage mind like Rochelle's, it was a hell of a lot more when she was telling it to Brian and Jason. Anyway, Jason and Brian both pleaded guilty to murder. Both testified against Rochelle. A Rochelle who was charged with, amongst other charges, first and second degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. Brian got 99 years, Jason got 55 years, and Rochelle's trial began in 2006 in Juneau, Alaska.
There's only really one difference between Rochelle Waterman and every other teenage girl. Rochelle Waterman had the misfortune to repeat her comments to Jason Arendt.
Jason took the stand. He told of how Rochelle had told him how to get into the house.
I loved her, and I already told her that I would do anything for her.
Okay.
And so at that point, I decided that I needed to enlist some help.
How he had called after Lori was killed, saying it was done, and telling how she was unhappy the van was destroyed, as she wanted to keep the van. The trial, after 2 weeks, went to the jury. There it remained for almost another week. They couldn't agree on the level of Rochelle's involvement. 10 favoured acquittal. They had reasonable doubt. 2 favoured a guilty verdict. And so it ended. The judge declared a mistrial. In 2011, the retrial for Rochelle Waterman, it happened then in Anchorage. In the end, this time, the jury found Rochelle not guilty of murder, but guilty of criminally negligent homicide, that she unwittingly caused her own mother's death. And so for that, she got 3 years in prison. She was and is a free woman today. Brian and Jason, later, after they were both arrested, came to realize that the gruesome twosome had been duped. That Rochelle wasn't a victim of her mother. That they had murdered an innocent woman. And now, the pair of them, will probably spend the rest of their lives behind bars. And so ends this chapter. Here, go on, I'll see you as always real soon in the next video. Until then, please, got yourselves.
You mean to tell me they didn't approve who you was dating, so you lied, complained, said all this shit to your boyfriend, and then he said I love you so much that he was gonna take your parents out? I mean, what would you gonna get from this? And it's sad that they in jail, prison I should actually say, because they took a life, they lost their life, and she is in the situation she in now. If they confess how they confessed and said what they said, why she ain't in there serving life? And those guys, time is being reduced. You know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say, she should have got the most time compared to what they got. 99 years, 50 years, life, 2 lives, whatever. She should have got 10 lives, because you do not do something like this and tell people to make the judgment call on somebody else's life just because you don't like how. That's just sad. All I gotta say is that's sad. So Ain't nothing else to say on this. I mean, the husband wish his wife was here. I'm pretty sure, they shouldn't have gave them young men all that time. Hell, she should have got 10 life sentences of 800 years, and then they should have only got like 25 with the possibility of, parole. So, another crazy case. Let's get it.